Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Suzanne Hart, and I would like to welcome you to Mindset Mastery. Do we have a conversation for you? I have one of my friends, mentors, and coaches with me this evening, Miss Lethea Owens. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her in a second, but I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to jump on, get yourselves situated. I suggest you get pen and paper because she always drops some great insight, some great knowledge. So you don't want to miss. So what are we talking about? We're really going to cover why you need to speak, right? What is the reason that, anyone, no matter what you do, needs to speak? Now, you might be thinking, you know what? I am deathly afraid of speaking. That was me. Why would I take on this craft? You might also be thinking, I'm beautiful one-on-one. I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I'm an author. I don't need to go in front of big rooms. We're going to talk to you tonight about what's available to you when you decide to take on the craft. Listen to the word, the craft of speaking. All right. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So welcome to Mindset Mastery. As I said, my name is Suzanne Hart, and we are here to reset your thinking. This is right. This is breakthrough strategies to reset your thinking. We work at the intersection of personal leadership, right? We work at the intersection of shifting your mindset, shifting your habits. This is all about cultural competency and inclusive leadership. Our commitment to you is to bring you topics and interview individuals that really help you reset your thinking, examine your emotions, look at your habits so that you can begin to move towards the goals, the dreams, the desires that you have put in front of you. Okay, so let's jump into our topic. So the woman sitting beside me with that beautiful smile, right, is not other than market domination strategist, game changer, founder of Audacious Faith. She is a techie too, a speaker. The list could go on. But what I want to say about this beautiful woman is she has a heart of contribution. She has a heart of service, and she is committed to seeing all of us win. So you are definitely in the right place at the right time. I'd like to introduce Lethea Owens. Hey, hon.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here today to share with your audience. So thank you so much for the invitation.
I know I always love sitting down with you because one is that you're near and dear to my heart, but two is you just have such brilliance, truly, truly, truly. And I know we're going to give the audience, everyone listening, some gifts. So if you are listening, one thing I forgot, I'm excited. Okay, she's here. I'm excited. Please let us know where you're joining us from and what you do and who you're called to serve. The other thing I'm going to ask you to do is to bless a life. That means share this with a friend. Share this with someone who might be sitting there going, I need to speak. But I'm afraid to. If you're listening to the replay, hashtag replay, but do the same thing. Let us know who you are, where you're joining it from, and who you're called to serve, but also share it with a friend because knowledge is power, one, when we act upon it, but when we're able to engage with someone and talk through what we've learned. So welcome. So Lethea, I really want to have this conversation with you because I know you have been speaking for a long time,
Mm. A long, long time.
a long time. And you also went from working in a tech space
Mhm.
to the stage.
That's right.
So talk a little bit about what motivated and inspired that transition.
So here's what's funny, Suzanne, is even as a corporate professional, I learned early on that my ability to speak
Hmm.
impacts my ability to influence. And so whether we're in a corporate space or an entrepreneurial space, our in order to get our ideas heard, in order to get people to buy into what we believe or buy our products and services, we have to use the craft of speaking. And
Hmm.
so people have a very narrow view of speaking, I think sometimes. They think that if you're a speaker, you're on a big stage with lights and cameras and a big
Yeah.
audience. But I have delivered my most powerful speeches to an audience of two, right?
Love
My
that.
my and I'm gonna be very transparent. Can I be transparent here today?
Absolutely,
I'm going to be
absolutely.
very, very, very transparent, and also maybe share a little bit of humor at the same time. So, in my two most important speeches I've ever given have been to an audience of two.
Mm.
My first and most powerful speech was the speech when I noticed that people were coming to our house and knocking on the door, and they weren't coming in. And my parents were like socialites in the community, and I noticed that people were coming to the house, knocking on the door, but not like coming in. Is your mom or dad home? And so I would tell my mom and dad. They would go to the door, and then eventually I caught on, and so I called a family meeting. And my brothers, I excused them, so it's just basically my parents and I. And I asked my parents this question: "Are you guys selling drugs?" And they said, "Yeah." And I delivered a speech of what our life would look like if they got caught and they stopped selling drugs, right?
Ah, so the power of influence.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. That's right.
absolutely, absolutely.
And so they had just started dibbling and dabbling and, selling drugs, whatever. But luckily, my speech got them to transform their thinking about the choices that they were making.
You're making, yeah.
And then years later, I got a chance to lead both of my parents to the Lord. Through my message to them, they accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. So, like, my most, the most important speech I would ever give,
Mm-hmm.
and probably the most impactful speech on my life that I would ever give, were to an audience of two and totally transformed our lives, right? So I just wanted to kind of share that, be a little bit transparent, and also,
That is so interesting because as you're talking, and I'm thinking, what's one of the most influentials. I remember going for a job interview,
mhm.
and them offering me the job, but not offering me the income I wanted.
Hmm.
And I gave a speech about my value and what I brought to the table and why they should start me at the top of the pay scale.
Right.
And they were like, "We got to go talk to the board," but okay. And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
really? Now get this. I'm in social services. You don't negotiate salary in social services. That's unheard of."
Right.
But it is true because it is how we deliver and how we're influencing. And I just thought of that as you were speaking. So I love the way that you've reframed speaking for every single person. And I love the way you also called it a craft.
Mhm.
So here you are, tech space. You've learned that it's a power of influence. How do you get from tech space, corporate America, to speaking?
I'm glad you asked that. So here's the deal. The thing that made me successful in tech was my ability to speak effectively and to influence
Mhm.
others. So here, this is so, so crazy, but so exciting at the same time, Suzanne, because in tech, most of my colleagues were, tell me what you need done, give me some space, leave me alone, come back in 3 months and I'll have it built or I'll have what it done, right? And I was the person who was like, why? And how can we communicate that more effectively so that they get it faster? How
Yeah.
can we use the ability to communicate to get more done more efficiently and more effectively and faster? So I was that person who always liked to communicate. And when I look at my experience in corporate as a tech professional, I was getting 14% pay raises when everyone else was getting 4% pay raises.
Mm.
So, and I wasn't working at Google or Twitter or anything like that, but to get that kind of a pay raise was significant. And when I look back at the reason why I was compensated at that level, I can directly connect it back to my ability to use my message and my voice and speaking to impact, influence, and increase profitability. And so, like you
That
said, it
makes,
just translated it to my,
yeah, absolutely. And that makes so much sense because they say that one of the number one skills of all successful people, no matter what industry and what profession, is clear, impactful communication. And
yes.
I know for myself, and you said something else, and I want to make sure that everyone listening got this. So please, someone put this in the comment section. You said you were always a person asking questions. You were always a person curious. And that's my nature, right? I'm curious, and I like to figure things out. And why I want to highlight that, because people think that speaking is often regurgitating someone else's stuff. It's regurgitating what sounds like and what sounds good. And what I'm hearing you say is speaking is born of your own curiosity. And
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself, because like you, I navigated raises and positions, and got positions that were held for me, written for me, because of my ability to be curious and to communicate what I figured out in a way that opened the doors and opened the eyes of people. And I haven't made that connection till you started speaking. And I have also just translated that to a bigger place and space,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, yes.
And this is so key for authors, speakers, and like authors, consultants, coaches, because that's what they're doing. They're being curious. And imagine being able to take that curiosity and bring it to a platform where people get to get an insight that they didn't have before. Ah,
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, we talk about the transference of that knowledge into the, I call it the expert space, right? And so as we look at the expert space of speakers, authors, coaches, consultants, and service providers, we have a gift that we've been given. And I believe that we all have the ability to become magnetically attractive
yeah,
to
yeah.
the people that we're called to serve. And so, as we show up in the world as the solution that we are, there are people who have an issue that only we can serve because we're, I believe, divinely connected, right? So, as this person who has this issue is looking for an answer, when I use the power of my voice and my speaking to share my message, that's how our paths cross, right? They don't get to see me or know me or experience me until I speak, until I share, until I communicate. Communication and speaking is the tool that I use to help them understand who I am and what I have to offer. And so the ability that we as speakers, authors, and coaches, have to communicate not just the story or not just the tactics, but to really, and I love how you teach this, Suzanne. It's about um, there's something inside of us that only we can give, and there's a way that we can share our message that really magnetizes others. And when we are when we are clear about how to craft our story in such a way that, number one, we interrupt their life and grab their attention.
Mm-hmm.
Then number two, we reel them in to get them curious about us and help them to really lean in and want to know more. And then number three, open up their mind and heart so that our message could take root and really transform their lives. When we learn how to do that,
Yeah.
well, our income potential skyrockets because we're using our message and our voice and our ability to speak to attract those who are called to work with us, and then to help them to see that we're exactly what it is that they've been waiting on.
So well said. Last night, Tri and I, we did a live training, and one of the things we talked about. So just to paraphrase what you're saying, is that people buy you before they buy from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that the first sale that you make in any process is you,
Absolutely.
right? And how you do that. And what you're saying is most people think, well, when they introduce me and they sell my bio, they sell all my accolades, they sell all my degrees, they sell all my accomplishments, they sell all that stuff through my introduction, then I can go into presentation. But what we aren't told is that that's not what people are looking to buy.
Mm-mm.
They're looking to buy, what is it about you that I connect with? What is that heart space connection, that energetic, that connection, that nuance, that something special, that experience, that way of being that really and truly can only be conveyed through speaking and communication? What is it about you that you're telling me that has me say, oh my gosh, you're my coach? And I remember, and I'll be very transparent. I saw Lethea speak 10 years ago,
Probably, yeah, about 10
10
years
years
ago.
ago. And this woman took the stage with power and a big smile, but her energy was infectious. Her way of being was infectious. And there was a way of being, and some of the things that she said that I sat there not knowing anything about her, but said, this is a person I'm called to work with. And I remember I put her in my file, gonna work with her later. I wasn't quite ready, but I knew that when the moment came, she was a person, but it wasn't about what she did. I mean, she was the person who was doing the thing I needed, but that wasn't the thing. And this is what I want everybody to get. It was the who she was being while she was doing what she did. And for me, I knew for some reason that she would get me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Simon Sinek has a book called Start with Why. And in
Yeah.
the book, he says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so
Yes.
it's so funny is Suzanne just kept saying, like in her mind, as she just said, it's just who Lethea was being. It was like there was something different about how she showed up. What she was buying and connected to and attracted to was the why I do what I do. Right.
Yeah,
Not the
absolutely.
what I do. Right. And so when we started working together, she was constantly saying, oh my gosh, now I get it. Like, I know why I'm so attracted to you. We are so aligned in our beliefs and our values and how we show up in the world. Working together was so much fun. But
Mm-hmm.
it's because my why connected with her yearning and her why, right? So it's really important to, and this is really, really key. I want to make sure people get this, Suzanne. That's why I say the craft of speaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
if you don't understand it's a craft, you'll go out and share a message that's based on the what,
Yes.
not
And
understanding that that it's more than just this is what I do. Let me go out and tell the world. But no, it's this whole understanding of allowing the essence of who you are and the why you do what you do to shine so brightly that people become magnetically
yes,
attracted to it.
crap. I call it the me only,
Mm,
right? And it is like there are coaches, there are consultants, I love real estate because there's a real estate agent on every, like, it feels like on every block. But this is the thing. What is your me only, your way of being that's so unique that when you open your mouth and you speak, your divine clients go, that's you, you're it. And you hear it all the time. I felt like you were speaking just to me. It was like you rented space in my head. It's like you live with me. It's, you get those words where people are like, there's just this connection, like me in some way, shape, or form.
mm.
So, Lethea, I'm sure there are people listening that are authors, they're coaches, they're consultants, they're strategists, and they're like, but why would I do this? And I want to tell everybody, Lethea designed, built, branded my website, so she could be that person who says, I'm just going to be back here doing my thing. But I met Lethea on a stage, and I've seen her on many stages. So why would they decide to take on this craft of speaking?
So I'm going to be transparent again and share a little bit of personal information to say that I am a geek at heart. I'm just, that's just who I am. So you all know that from my bio. But I don't get to really play in my geekiness until somebody decides to hire me as their branding strategist, as the company that builds their website, right? So I realized that if I could speak to sell more of my services, that could be a winner. And there are years where just through marketing strategies, normal traditional marketing strategies, I was able to generate 3 times more consulting or service projects through speaking than I ever did through marketing, like traditional marketing. And I think the most I've ever made is selling coaching and website packages on a stage from a 45-minute keynote. I sold over 100K in services from a 45-minute keynote and have done over 50K many times over, right? In audiences of like 30 people, Suzanne, not even big audiences of 50,
Mm-hmm.
5,500 people. With 30, 40 people in the room, I'm generating 50, 100K in sales just using the power of my ability to speak about my why and how I
Mm-hmm.
do it, right? So that's why coaches, if you want to coach more, speak more. If you want to sell more products and programs, speak more. If you want to sell more books, speak more.
I love
And
it.
I see it as this ecosystem. I call it the expert ecosystem, Suzanne, where you have speaking, you have coaching, and you have products and programs. And look at them. Imagine if they were gears, right? So every
Hmm.
time you speak, you're actually automatically turning one of your other gears, because when people hear you speak, they're now, if done well, because that's why it's a craft again, right? You
That's right.
got to know the systems, the structures, and the science and the savviness of speaking. It's not just I'm going to go out and speak, or I love to talk, so I'm a great speaker. No, no, no. There is a structure and a system to doing this well. You don't just stand on a stage and make $100,000 in sales just because you love speaking, right? But when you know the science behind this and the structure and the way to do this, the process, every time you speak, it automatically generates more business in these other areas of your business. So this cog automatically turns this cog, which now
Yeah.
every time, and then it reverses, which I love. The ecosystem reverses in the sense that every time I sell a book, it creates an opportunity for me to sell more speaking. Right.
Right.
I've actually gotten tons of speaking engagements because someone read a book that I've written. They're like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, like I read this book that you wrote. We would love to have you come speak. So my products and books sell my speaking. My speaking sells my coaching. My coaching sells my books. And it just is this ecosystem that works well together when you learn how to do it well. But the one that has given me the greatest results and the greatest income has been speaking. It's like the biggest cog of the multiple cogs.
Absolutely. And you know, for me, and this, so this is a question that's coming from what you're saying, because I'm sure people are like, people are like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. But they might be sitting there going, Alethea, I am not an expert. I'm like just starting out. Like, what? Can
I'm
you?
so glad. I'm so glad. So here's the deal. When I decided that I wanted to become a speaker, one of the first things I did was invested as much as I could to get access to the best speaker I knew.
Mm,
Um, and it doesn't matter if you don't feel called to be a speaker. Here's what I want you to really hear is we're talking about the craft of speaking, not the profession of being a speaker.
speaker. Yeah.
Did you get that? So we're talking about using the craft of speaking to help you become more influential, to have greater impact, and to increase your income, not the profession necessarily of being a speaker. So don't let the lights and the big stages scare you away. We're talking about even being able to have a one-on-one conversation more powerfully so that you can convert a prospect into a
Yeah.
client. Does that make sense?
It does. And you know, I'm so glad you went there because, you know, one of the things I've been having this conversation a lot is that when I learned to speak, Lethea, and I understood the craft, particularly of storytelling, I realized that people tell me stories all the time. But because I understood the story structure, I would realize that they would bring me down in this bottom of their story and they'd never come out. And my job was to say, here, I'm going to help you out. I know how to get out. Because when I listened to their story, they went into this is what's happening in my life. It's rolling out of control and I'm stuck down here. And you know they want to finish the story, but they just haven't got figured out how. So what it did for me, not only did it help me with my speaking, but it shifted how I listened to people because we are natural storytellers. And the sales process, I realized, is when we're able to go, I can help you rewrite the ending to that story so you end up where you want to be.
Hmm. Absolutely. And so as we're talking about, what if someone says, but I'm not a speaker, right? So two things, you don't have to be a speaker to use speaking.
Yeah.
But if you decide you want to use speaking, the craft of speaking to help you increase your influence, impact, and income, one of the first things I did was invested as much as I could afford. And for me, Suzanne, I use speaking to help me raise the money to get more
Yeah.
speaking training. But I did little weekend workshops. Didn't know what I was doing. I basically said, hey, buy this book and then come to this meeting, pay $35 to come to this meeting, and then we're gonna have a book discussion. I mean, it was just crazy. Like, why would someone do that, right? But they did, right? Because
I did the exact same thing. I did the exact same thing.
they were buying
I
my ride.
I worked with the coach. I swear I followed him around the country like 4 years. And I was like, what do you want me to do? Open? Okay. What do you want me to do? Do this? Okay. What do you want me to do? I like any opportunity I got. But then when I was home, I was doing conference calls. I was doing workshops. I was doing, and I like, when I look back, probably like you now, I'd be like, oh, but this is the thing. I started.
Yes.
You started.
Because of a hunger, right? Like
Right.
when you really want to make the dream that you have in your head, whether it's to be a best-selling author, to be an impactful coach, or even to be a professional speaker, right? When that dream that you have is so, it becomes so insatiable, right? It becomes such a hunger and a craving. You'll make the commitment to do whatever it takes to bring it into reality. And for me, what that meant was getting really, really good at my craft.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed a coach, right? I needed someone who had been there. I remember hiring Glenna Salisbury. If you've never met her, oh my God, this woman is one of the most graceful, most powerful speakers who has ever walked this earth. And I remember paying a nice piece of change to go spend 3 days with her in Phoenix in her home. And what I learned, and here's the thing, sometimes we're challenged to the brink of our comfort zone. And
Yeah.
she challenged me. And after day one, I wanted to go home. I was like, I can't go back to her house tomorrow. Like, I'm just going to get an early flight home. I hope I never see her again because she pushed me to the edge of my
Oh,
greatness. And so
yeah.
when you decide that you want to get better at selling your coaching or better at selling your books or better at selling your speaking, the craft of speaking and mastering it will help you do that. But you might need some help because here's what I learned. The success as a speaker who uses speaking to sell, success comes through a process or
Yeah.
through a structure. And I didn't know what it was. I could see people doing it, but I couldn't reverse engineer it. But my coaches that I've invested in, they've already reverse engineered it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they knew the process, the formula, the strategy, and that's all I needed because I had the courage and I had the chutzpah and I had the desire to make my dream a reality. I just needed to know the secret sauce. I needed to know the system. And so I love that like your work does that for Suzanne. You like open up, you pull back the curtain and you're like, oh, here's a very, and it's so easy. That's the crazy thing is it's not hard. It's
No,
just
once you learn it, it's not hard. And I remember because I'm the person who hid out, who wouldn't speak. I would do one-on-one. I might do 1-on-10, but after that, it was like no, not at all. And it wasn't until I started working, as you said, with a coach and a mentor who pushed me to my brink. And I'll never forget because I told the story last night. I was at an event sitting in the audience. So check this, Leafy. I'm at an event sitting in the audience, excited because my coach David is training, and I love to watch David train. So I'm sitting back, I'm ready, and David is in the room. The room has like about 200 people, and he takes a seat, pulls out a cup of tea, and says, "I don't feel like training anymore. There must be another trainer in the room." And I'm thinking, "There's
who?
there." And he goes, "Suzanne." And I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no." And I'm like, audience, audience, I'm the audience today. No, no, no. And he literally said, "The stage is yours." And he probably gave me the stage for like 30 minutes. I thought it was like forever. But this was what he was teaching me. And this is what you're saying. He told me I knew the structure. He taught it to me. He said, "You know what to do. Just trust it." And in that moment, I began for my first time to generate on the spot in front of a crowd, mess up, start again, have the audience go, "Wow," and continue to be my authentic self. And in that moment, what he taught me was everything I needed was in me. And if I would trust the structure that I was taught, which you were taught, which all speakers know, if I would just trust it, I could move with it. And that is exactly what happened. And I think the biggest gift, Lethea, and I see this with you as well, is I realize that the audience doesn't want me to be perfect. They want me to be my authentic, transparent, vulnerable, powerful self.
Yeah. Yes. And what I love about what you said is it's really already in us. Like
Mhm.
the ability is in us. We just don't understand the process of how to bring it out. And so it's not until we have a coach who understands the process can we unleash what's really inside of us.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
when we get to really walk in our brilliance and our power is when someone can see the potential in this diamond, this the diamond in the rough, right? It's not until David started polishing you, you know,
yeah, yeah,
put
yeah.
that pressure on you, right? It's that pressure
That heat.
sometimes and
Yeah,
that heat and but he saw potential there, right? You don't put pressure on something that has no potential to turn into a diamond, right?
yeah.
And so it's that potential that's within us to be able to, because I believe that if you've been called to write this book or to create this coaching program, you are also called to be able to you are also called to share it with the world,
Because
right?
obviously you have something to say, right?
Absolutely.
And
Ab-
that was me. Like I remember I would sit in audience and I would have so much to say, but be so afraid to say it. But I would be answering questions and coaching and doing all this stuff. And I'd be like, oh, I could answer that better. And da, 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 da. Because I had something to say. I was just too afraid to say it until someone gave me, I call it a safety net.
yes, and I find that people have two reasons why they don't want to speak is either they're afraid to say it or they don't know how to say it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
both of them lead to the same thing is I don't want to look stupid.
right,
I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't
right.
want to look bad, right? So I'm either afraid to say it or I don't know how to say it. And it comes back to this result. But if someone gave you a strategy of how to say it in a way that would be impactful and you would get the results that you desired, then the fear dissipates. Right? The fear
Mm-hmm.
when you understand the how and you are able to really implement that, then the fear goes away because our fear is associated with not knowing how
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
not thinking we can do it. But once you get clear that I can do this because I have a system I can follow, fear no longer will hold you back.
It's game over. Then it's just practice, and practice becomes fun.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this. So one of the things I want to leave everybody with is that so I and Taria Hodge, we're going to be hosting another training on Tuesday, September 29. This is a magnetize and monetize the virtual stage. And why virtual stage? Because this is going to be my last question I'm going to ask Lethea. Why virtual stage is because things have changed and we have your pivot has been the word of the second quarter of the year. And people are now on Zoom, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, using all those platforms. So what we're offering is a training that gives you an insight into what happens when you're given a structure for speaking and a structure for storytelling that allows you to show up as your authentic self, that allows you to, one, figure out the story that best represents your brand. Because what did Lethea say at the beginning? People buy why you do what you do. And we're so often taught busy telling them what we do and how it's going to benefit them that they don't get to see our heart. But people have to buy our heart, buy our why before they're interested in the what and the how. So this is what we're doing is really showing you how to represent your why in the most authentic way that has your audience inspired, touched, and influenced by you.
Mm.
And so that is the 29 at 7 p.m. Eastern. The link is in the comments section. It's also in the description for the talk this evening. And so what I wanted to ask you as we close, Lethea, is, why should someone invest in this, particularly at this time?
Mm. So I think that when we look at the landscape of where we are, the most wealthy people are individuals who they decide to take action while others are still trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And the individuals who are listening to us today who really want to create a different future, and things are changing at a rapid pace right now, but they will make a decision today to act so that they can learn strategies that will help them be more effective tomorrow. And when we think about the most wealthiest people, look at the stocks, right? They buy a stock when it's low because they see the potential. They're
Right.
like, I'm going to invest here because I see the trajectory of where this is going. We're already starting to see, like, where the trajectory is doing this. We're still kind of low, but the trajectory is online spending is growing at an alarming rate. And so it used to be that you could sell your coaching services through referrals and just traditional marketing, but learning how to speak on both virtual and even on live platforms, but specifically the influx of virtual sales creates an opportunity, and it's so much easier to be able to speak to sell today than it was a year ago. The opportunities to get on more platforms and podcasts and things of that nature, it has just skyrocketed. So if you decide to join this live training and learn some strategies now, your first quarter next year, even your fourth quarter this year, could be very different because you've invested time and energy in sharpening your own saw. So now is the time. When was the best time to plant an oak tree? The best time was 100 years ago. When is the second best time? Today,
Right.
right now.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think that's, that I just wanted to share that with the audience because it's important for them to understand where things are going and how they can do something today that will impact their 2021 first quarter and their 2021 bottom line by making a decision to sharpen their saw and develop a skill today.
You know, that is so well said. Thank you. And I know for myself, I joke because I used to walk around telling people I was an international speaker, and I'd spoken, like, I joke, in my backyard, right? I hadn't spoken anywhere, but I had a vision, and I would say I'm this mindset mastery mentor, this expert. I didn't even know what a mindset mastery mentor was. I didn't even know what I knew what mindset mastery was. I'm just making all this up.
Mm-hmm.
But my point to this is, the minute I stepped into that, like, owned it, and owned the title speaker and took the stage, I went from like, it went from a thought to an expert. And I want you to close in terms of the power of that. And it was because I'd done the work before I took the stage. I'd worked with my coach. I had worked with you. I'd worked with a number of influential, powerful people who had done what I wanted to do. And what blew me away was I went from unknown to expert by the time I got off that stage. So can you speak a little bit about the power of that?
Yes. So when people have an opportunity to really look into, who we really are and why we do what we do, it creates a connection with them that is hard to explain even. I call it spirit to spirit communication. Most of us communicate head to head, right? We're transferring knowledge. And when people hear transference of knowledge, they, oh, that was interesting. They become curious. But when we begin to speak heart to heart, people are inspired and motivated. And so over time, they go and do things differently. But when we learn to communicate the way that you did, we're speaking spirit to spirit. It's like my why connects with your why. And all of a sudden, transformation happens in that moment. And when that happens, when you can speak and transform someone's thoughts, that is the highest level of influence and impact that you could have. And so I think that when you look at, the idea of stepping on that stage as an unknown and then stepping off of that stage as this highly valued, resource or speaker is exactly what happens when you're able to connect with people in that level or in that way.
Wow. This was good. This
Mm.
was good. Everyone, first of all, I'm looking forward to seeing each and every one of you September 29th, 7 p.m. Eastern. Magnetize and monetize the virtual stage. We're going to crush it. We're going to show you exactly what each and every one of you can do. Lethea has also given us a special treat. You'll find out about that when you show up, but the specialist market domination, let me just say. Uh, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. You got to show up to find out more. Lethea, thank you so, so much. It's always a joy to sit down with you. But I think you have mastered the craft of speaking because as you speak, it's like truth to power. There's just such wisdom that comes out of you. So I just want to say thank you for blessing us this evening.
My pleasure, and I wish you much success. And for all of those who are joining us today, I wish you much success. And I know that you have the ability to really master the craft of speaking because you have a message inside of you that's coming out in your coaching and your products already. So it's a matter of figuring out how to leverage it, not if you can leverage it.
Wow, thank you. Well, everyone, this was Mindset Mastery. I have been sitting down with none other than Lethea Owens. We will be back here next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, stay blessed, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.